I'm the fighter, I'm the athlete, the one getting in there. So that's how I train now.
I lost that fight on purpose just so that I could go out there and knock out Aljo.
I was chasing that. I was chasing the greatest of all time, this and that. And I still think I'm one of the greatest of all time.
When you sit down with Aljamain one-on-one and, you're whatever, he's a great guy.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Cage, where we bring you the latest and exciting updates of UFC. First, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Mike Perry decided against returning to the UFC. You know, it's interesting, but Platinum Mike Perry made it pretty clear that he wasn't even considering a return to the UFC once his contract with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship ran its course. So, when he appeared on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, he mentioned that the main reason for his decision was the significant pay cut he would have had to endure if he had gone back to the UFC. Moreover, he goes on to discuss his preference for the style of fighting in boxing as opposed to MMA. Perry acknowledges that he did train, but his instinct was always focused on striking and boxing. He admits that there was pressure in MMA to conform to certain strategies, even when he preferred to stand and exchange punches with his opponent.
No, because the pay cut would have been too massive.
Right.
So it's like, whatever. And it's 5-minute rounds and it's MMA and, I like the boxing. All I ever did in MMA, I know I trained lots of stuff and I would even get kind of good at grappling, wrestling or whatever in certain positions. And it's like, I'm fighting in a fight where they're like, get a takedown. And I'm like, I'm thinking about hitting him right now. I understand that's not an excuse and that I should ultimately fight how I want to fight. So I'm the fighter, I'm the athlete, the one getting in there. So that's how I train now. I get in the ring and I fight my way now and I practice for it that way. So bare knuckle was a no-brainer.
However, Perry acknowledges that this isn't an excuse and that ultimately he should fight in the way that suits him best, as he's the one stepping into the ring. Sean O'Malley claims his intentional loss to Marlon Vera. Sean O'Malley recently made a bold statement about his only professional mixed martial arts loss. He claimed that his defeat at the hands of his arch-rival Marlon Vera in 2020. And it was intentional. It's a bold statement that has raised eyebrows in the MMA community and added an intriguing layer of drama to his journey as the bantamweight champion. Along with this statement, Sean O'Malley explained his perspective on the strategic thinking behind it. He starts by stating that he didn't lose any sleep over his fight with Vera, implying that the defeat didn't bother him much.
I never lost sleep over this fight. I've actually been playing chess for a long time. I lost that fight on purpose just so that I could go out there and knock out Aljo and then have that be my biggest fight rematch.
Certainly, O'Malley goes on to explain that his desire for a rematch with Vera isn't solely based on Vera's recent performance or victory over Pedro Munhoz.
If I got the pick, if I was running the show, I would say yes, simply because Cheeto is the biggest fight next, not because he's beautiful performance over Pedro. That's not the case. The fight, if I fight Cheeto next, is because that's what I want, and that's the biggest fight. I'm in the fight business, and I want big fights.
All in all, he acknowledges that he's in the fight business, and what he's aiming for are big, high-profile fights that capture the attention of fans and the MMA world. Israel Adesanya calls Sean Strickland's man dance talk hype. Israel Adesanya isn't buying into Sean Strickland's game plan for their upcoming UFC 293 bout. Strickland has been teasing his strategy with his somewhat quirky man dance line, suggesting that he's got something special in store for Adesanya. While Adesanya seems to believe that Strickland might be better off taking the fight to the ground and utilizing his wrestling skills. However, Adesanya suggests that Strickland's talk about this strategy might be more for show than anything else, using the term selling wolf tickets to imply that Strickland is hyping up his fighting style. These comments reflect Adesanya's confidence in his striking skills and his anticipation of the strategies Strickland might employ in the fight. "I hope he wrestles," Adesanya told MMA Junkie and other reporters at Wednesday's media day. "If not, cool, stand and bang. Do the man dance as you will." He's selling wolf tickets when he talks about that, by the way. "I don't think he's going to man dance with me, and if he does, I'm a better dancer than him." I don't want to knock him out if that makes sense, Adesanya said. It's just 1 + 1 is 2 and I'm going to knock him out. I'd rather submit him, to be honest. I want to submit him, but what we've worked on and what he does and his ego and his brain is just a peanut. So 1 + 1 is 2. Water is wet. Sean Strickland is getting slept. Israel Adesanya mentions that he doesn't have a personal desire to knock Strickland out. It's not his primary goal. Adesanya goes on to explain that from his perspective, the outcome of the fight is almost a mathematical certainty. In other words, Adesanya believes that Strickland will not change his approach, and the fight will end with him being knocked out. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, we'd love your support. Just hit that subscribe button to motivate us to bring you more exciting content. Israel. Adesanya says Alexander Volkanovski is the GOAT. Here, Israel Adesanya has some interesting thoughts about Alexander Volkanovski. So, leading up to his title defense against Sean Strickland at UFC 293, they asked him about where he sees himself among the all-time greats in MMA. And you know what he said? He dropped a bombshell by saying that he feels like Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest of all time. GOAT, anyway. It's a pretty bold statement from Adesanya about Volkanovski. Adesanya goes on to explain his admiration for Volkanovski, mentioning their friendship and his genuine appreciation for Volkanovski's fighting style.
I was chasing that. I was chasing the greatest of all time, this and that. And I still think I'm one of the greatest of all time. I put Alexander Volkanovski as the greatest of all time in my eyes because I see the work he does and he's my buddy and I love the way he fights. He's one of my favorite fighters in history.
Generally, he might think that right now Alexander Volkanovski is the GOAT. But that doesn't mean he's not aiming for that title himself in the long run.
I know I'm the best. I know I'm the best, and I'm not done yet. I'm still going. So I know when it's all said and done, I'll be the best.
Israel Adesanya is expressing a strong belief in his abilities and his future in the sport of MMA. He firmly believes himself as one of the best fighters in the world. Moreover, he emphasizes that he's not finished with his career. He concludes by stating that he is aware that over time, as his career unfolds and he achieves more milestones, he will solidify his position as the best fighter in the sport. Dana White discusses his concerns regarding Aljamain Sterling. You won't believe it. But over the past year, the funk master Aljamain Sterling has been having some issues with his employer, the UFC. He's been quite vocal about it in interviews and on social media, often mentioning that he feels like he's not getting the respect he deserves. But here's the twist. During a chat with the media after a recent episode of Dana White's Contender series, White spilled the beans and said that Sterling is a fantastic guy in private. He mentioned his perspective on Aljamain Sterling. White acknowledges that when he's had one-on-one interactions with Sterling, he genuinely likes him and sees him as a great guy. Additionally, he appreciates Sterling's personality and finds him very likable in private settings. However, White hints at a sense of frustration, wondering whether it's a form of self-sabotage or something else that drives Sterling to make statements.
So here's the thing with Sterling. You know, I'll tell you my personal experience. So when you sit down with Aljamain one-on-one and, you're whatever, he's a great guy. He's a great kid, very likable, everything else. Decisions he makes in public and things that he says in public do not make him the most popular guy on the roster. And it's the weirdest thing. I don't know if it's self-sabotage or what it is. It's just he always seems to say the wrong things, in times when if he said even remotely close to the right things, people would love him. You know what I mean? I always say about the kid. Kid's a good-looking kid. He's got a great physique. When you sit down with him one-on-one, he's a good kid. But in public, he can't help himself.
Asked if he had any advice for Sterling, Dana White acknowledged all that the Funk Master has accomplished in combat sports despite some of his lesser-appreciated qualities. All right, guys, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you at the next one. Until then, goodbye.